You buried 8 of your own children, and you felt nothing? You call that strength? I call it death while still breathing. Suffering is not something to be endured. It is the raw material of greatness. Every masterpiece, every revolution, every leap forward, born from pain. I wrote my greatest works while my body was destroying itself. Migraines that blinded me. Pain so constant, I forgot what its absence felt like. And it was precisely this pain that sharpened my mind like a blade against stone. What does not kill you makes you stronger. This is not a greeting card. This is the fundamental law of human existence.
Pain is natural. It comes with having a body. But suffering is a choice. The pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment. I ruled an empire during a plague that killed millions. I buried my children. I spent my final years on frozen battlefields, far from everything I loved, and I was at peace. Not because I felt nothing, but because my judgments, not my circumstances, determined my suffering.
At peace. You sat on a throne surrounded by death and told yourself it was fine. That's not wisdom. That's emotional suicide.
It is discipline.
It is denial. You teach people to feel less. I teach people to feel more.
And where did feeling more lead you, Friedrich?
To works that changed the course of human thought.
And to madness.
My body broke. My mind did not.
Your mind broke first. We both know that.
The works survived. That's what matters.
My meditations were never written for the world. They were written for myself, to keep my soul intact while everything burned. And they've guided millions for 2,000 years. I'd say they've done their work.
Let's talk about your children. 14 born, 12 buried. And your philosophy told you to accept it.
You think I didn't grieve?
I think Stoicism robbed you of the most human response to losing a child. Rage. The scream that says, "This is not acceptable."
And what would rage have accomplished? Would it have brought them back?
No, but it would have meant you were still alive inside.
An empire of 60 million people depended on me. I could not afford to collapse. That is not emotional suicide. That is duty.
Duty. The word tyrants use to justify their own emptiness. You suppressed your pain and called it virtue. I'll tell you what your Stoicism really is, Marcus. Slave morality dressed in emperor's robes.
Slave morality? I was the most powerful man in the known world.
Power over others, but no power over yourself. You used your suffering to survive. I used mine to create.
We agree on one thing. You call it amor fati, love of fate. I called it the same thing 15 centuries before you were born.
Yes, we do. But you embrace fate with resignation. I embrace it with fire. A man loses everything. His wife, his children, his health. Nothing left but pain. Your philosophy tells him, what? Accept it?
That even in the deepest loss, his mind remains his own. The fire around him need not burn what is inside him.
A beautiful lie. That man doesn't need peace. He needs a reason to stand up.
Peace is not a reason?
No. Peace is what you feel when you've given up. A reason to stand up comes from rage, from the burning refusal to accept that this is how the story ends. Beethoven composed his greatest symphony while deaf. Dostoevsky wrote his masterpieces after facing a firing squad. I wrote Zarathustra while barely able to see. We didn't find peace, we found purpose. And it was the pain that gave it to us.
And Beethoven died alone. Dostoevsky was consumed by seizures. And you, Friedrich, you spent your last 11 years in silence, unable to speak, unable to think. Your own mother fed you like an infant. Was that the gift of suffering?
The man is nothing. The work is everything.
And there it is, the core of your philosophy. The man is nothing. You treat yourself as raw material to be burned through and discarded. You glorify destruction and call it creation. I chose to be whole, to endure without being consumed. You burned so brightly that you destroyed yourself. I burned steadily, and I lit the way for others.
Marcus, you are a good man, perhaps the best man to ever hold power. But good men do not change the world, they maintain it. It cost me everything, my health, my sanity, my life. But I would not change a single moment. Amor fati. Every migraine, every lonely night, every page written in agony. Suffering is not a curse. It is the price of greatness, and I paid it gladly.
And I would not change mine either. Not the plague, not the wars, not the 12 small graves. But I refuse to call suffering a gift. The question is not whether you suffer, it is whether suffering makes you cruel or whether it makes you kind. You sought greatness, Friedrich. I sought goodness. And if I must choose between a world of Übermenschen who burn themselves to ash and a world of ordinary people who care for one another through the darkness, I choose the darkness every time.